Welcome back to Sports Drive. I'm your host, Maya Kitchens. I want to thank Mike for being here. But next we have somebody else who actually does work with Mike. We're going to bring in Alan Roberson. Alan, how are you doing today?
I'm fantastic, Maya. Thank you so much for having me. I'm feeling great. Weather is cooling off a little bit, thank goodness. We're getting into the fall, kind of carrying off from the conversation you had with, as you said, my coworker, if you will, boss, to whatever type of thing with Mike Roden. The perfect time for high school football, for college football, NFL, obviously, and things like that. So it's always fun really getting into the fall and getting into these fall sports some more.
Yeah, thanks so much for being here. And like you said, it is cooling off around here. But for one team down in Canyon, it's been struggle bus down there, unfortunately. I hate to see that for them. The West Texas A&M Buffaloes, they're just not able. I can't find the right words. They did lose, to put it plainly, they lost 45-3 at home on Saturday night to Central Washington. You played for WTAMU. I just want to hear your thoughts on the game and kind of what you've been seeing from the team.
Well, for starters, there are quite a bit of positives still when it comes to this team. When it comes to the returners and obviously getting into this season, one of the bigger things I spoke about, as far as the team and my thoughts as far as going into the season, sometimes all it really takes is an off season of just learning more of, whether it be from the offensive sides of things, the defensive sides of things, just getting more familiar with the culture and what it is that Coach Lynn is wanting going into year two of being the head coach here with WT. It has been a little bit of a rough start, to say the least. For what it's worth, and I know obviously they're not going to say it, even if the outcomes were reversed over the past couple of weeks, those teams wouldn't say it either, whether it been from weather, whether it been from time, whatever the case may be. They're definitely not trying to make any excuses from how things have been, especially when it came to last Saturday. Central Washington, by all accounts, was going into the season as the team to beat in the LSC. And those around the area, the LSC has been one of the premier conferences in all of Division II, regardless of sport, to be completely honest with you. So when you pair that with how physical Central Washington came out to play, even going into the RMAC as well, one of the other more competitive conferences in all Division II, Colorado School of Mines, Western Colorado, CSU Pueblo, the list goes on and on of some really stout teams that we see on a regular basis. As far as how things have been, it's unfortunate, but it has been something that we have seen for a little while now. It's been a little bit of a rough start getting out the blocks. There are some positives to take away from these past couple of games, but obviously those aren't the things that
we're focusing on.
There's still quite a bit of correctable things, little things, all the cliches and all the coachable mistakes and things like that I have full trust and expectation that is going to get addressed and be put into a little bit more of concise manner, especially now in the time of year. Obviously, you came off to a bad start, getting ready, or getting more so into LSC conference play. We're now in the nitty gritty. We're now into the, Western Oregon, which will be the opponent for this week. We got to deal with, A&M Kingsville, got to deal with Angelo State, got to deal with Midwestern. There are plenty of teams from the preseason rankings that may be a little bit further below where WT is. That means absolutely nothing when it comes to game time. There are far too many moments and far too many instances of teams being able to steal wins on the road. It's a tough start. I have plenty of faith and trust of just getting better, even if it's just by 1% in the day. It's a tough one. It's definitely going to be a tough one getting into the conference schedule. But again, you have quite a bit of guys who have a bit of familiarity from year one now going into year two. Now, obviously, with a guy like Sean Johnson now in the mix as quarterback one, there's still plenty of things that he has done incredibly well over these first couple of games of the season. But if it's the offense up to play, defense not so much. If the defense is up to play, offense not so much. So that's also just one of those elusive things sometimes of their coaches will always say there's no such thing as a perfect game. You can write up all the schemes, you can watch all of the film. There's almost impossible to come up with a perfect game from kickoff to the time that the clock strikes zero. So you're still trying to achieve that. You're still trying to get better day by day. But the urgency, even if it's just by the smallest sliver, is starting to raise a bit more because, again, the LSC has been one of the elite conferences for a really, really long time, long before even I moved up here, some 8-9 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, everything you said was kind of on point. When I was watching the game, I saw some things that were great, and then I saw some things that weren't. And then you look at the final stats, obviously, and, half of the amount of yards that Central Washington had as a whole. And, WT is generally a rushing team, but only 146 yards on the night and no touchdown, couple of turnovers here and there, and the turnover that WT had resulted in a pick six. And so it's good to give Sean Johnson a little bit of grace. Obviously, he's new. He's kind of moving up from a different level. And it's going to take time, especially for, like you said, this is Coach Lynn's second season with WT, so you got to give some grace to the coach. But, not putting up a touchdown at home is going to turn some heads. And I definitely think, what you said, like I said, was on point. Kind of from your perspective, what's something that they can really work on?
Well, I mean, someone like myself as a lineman, and obviously I was never the greatest or anything like that, but being around a lot of great guys as far as what they're able to do, how they're able to perform on a day in, day out basis. I've said it plenty of times, and I'll continue to say it. Everything is won and lost in the trenches, whether it's on the offensive line, whether it's on the defensive line, and sometimes all it really takes is just a matter of effort and heart. Not to say that those guys don't have it, of course, but after a certain point, you need to just not so much just throw things to the wall and just absolutely go for it, but that's where the most physicality on the field is on a play in, play out basis. So if you establish the offensive line, you establish the defensive line, you establish the run, because again, very much a run heavy type of team. You do have your fair share of speedsters, you have your fair share of guys who are able to get into the open space and make a guy miss, especially when it comes to the pass catchers on this team. But similar thing, we see it all the way at the collegiate level. We've seen it all the way at the NFL level. If a guy like Caleb Williams is running for his life, there's only so much we can really expect as far as productive plays down the field. You know what I mean? And so, it's not a, shot for shot similarity of sorts, but things do need to be a little bit more tightened when it comes to both offensive lines and defensive lines. And again, that's something that they've obviously known and are still talking about going into today. And of course, a little bit of some prep getting ready for Western Oregon this Saturday.
Yeah, like you said, they're going to be playing the Western Oregon Wolves for the Wolves home opener on Saturday. I think that's going to be a really good test for WT. Maybe they got to get out of Canyon and just see if they can make some magic happen elsewhere. Well, Alan, thank you so much for being here. I know you got to run. We'll definitely have you back on soon. Thanks for being here with us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon.
You too. We'll be right back after the break.